guys, week 3 of June is in the books, and it wasn't really that good for anybody. You can see we are all once again in the red. Though, Kyle, good for you. Only 0.6%, so not too bad. I want to start this week's episode, though, with some quick facts, or statistics, I should say, because we were filming this episode on the first ever federally recognized Juneteenth. And as a show that likes to talk about ESG-related stuff, I thought it was appropriate to kind of look at how far have we come and how much further do we have to go. So I'll give you guys some quick facts, statistics, etc. Just kind of give me your gut reaction. If you have any, I guess, commentary or things that you see both working in high tech, I would love to hear it. So, Fortune 100... 34% of Fortune 100 board seats are held by women and minorities. It says both increases since 2016. I mean, I would sure as hell hope so. It's hard to decrease when the amount is extremely small. Fortune 500, this is where things get kind of depressing. Women and minorities held 1,929 Fortune 500 board seats of an available 5,670.
Yeah. 20%. Okay.
Total minority representation increased to 16.1% as of the last available data, up from 12.8 in 2010.
Sure.
So, long way to go. Things are still not going super great. But the progress over the last couple of years, I guess, at least makes me optimistic that people are finally realizing that this is important and they're finally going to do something about it. I don't know what you guys see, again, working in high tech. I know that my workplace is a little bit different than yours. But I mean, I guess, how does that make us feel about the state of corporate America? Maybe that's not the right question, but
I mean, it's a little bit better, but I mean, it's like obviously still not ideal. I
yeah.
guess it's a sign that things are improving. It's working better. And it's probably working better in some fields than others. I mean, like just as like a very specific example, like sports has like rules about hiring minorities
Yeah.
and women for like not just coaching positions, but also like, you know, administration positions within the team about like team
Mm-hmm.
management and stuff. And that has actually not helped at all. Like you're supposed to like get the team is supposed to get benefits like extra draft picks and stuff for basically hiring
How are there
minorities.
rules that have not done anything? Is there not consequences for not following these rules?
Well, there's no you don't get a consequence for not you can't punish a team for not hiring a non a old white guy. You can't punish a team for hiring that. So what they're doing is they're saying we will give teams benefits if you don't hire that. It's just that
Ah,
teams have said
okay.
the teams have just said that like we don't care basically. Like we'd still rather hire the people we are looking to hire because that's our
So
safe
then,
process. And
is
they're
it
just
is it a talent gap because of
it is not
how?
a talent gap. There are so the number of minority and women position coaches,
Okay.
so like non-head coaches,
Yeah.
that number has increased a lot. So
Okay.
obviously there are talented people in the pool who
Good.
have the skills to get to the professional level and people hire them to do things. It's just that when it comes to making them the GM or the head coach, teams don't like to do that for whatever reason.
Hmm.
It's frustrating, I guess, when you have all of these people in those positions who are clearly seem eligible and are on the level just below the highest level essentially, right?
Yeah.
And but the highest level still only brings in when it brings in new people, they tend to be 30-year-old college coaches who are of a certain demographic.
Predominantly white men. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's like the hot craze, and everyone's like, like I'm not saying that these coaches are necessarily bad and don't deserve chances at the NFL. It's just that can you necessarily say that this 30-year-old has done something more than like a 50-year-old offensive coordinator on the Tampa Bay Bucks who just won a Super Bowl. Like, why didn't he get head coaching, interviews?
Fair
He
question.
just won a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
He just won a Super Bowl, and everyone said that his offense was, the incredible. Tom Brady ran it perfectly, destroyed everybody, and he
So
didn't
the
really get
talent
that
is
much
clearly
interest.
there. It's the opportunity gap that they still
Yeah, I
haven't
mean,
found a way to
so
close.
yeah, the Bucks specifically, the Tampa Bay Bucks, their entire coaching staff outside of Bruce Arians is
Yeah.
either minority or women. And he was like a big person who was like, like my staff should get interviews this offseason. Like we won the fucking Super Bowl. Like we
Yeah.
should get interviews. And they didn't really get interviews. And he was like, that's
Huh.
like I'm not gonna say that says something, but that seems to say something.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely not a good look.
Yeah.
I mean, I
So
don't
I mean,
want to divert the show too much and pick on particular sports figures for too long, but like the example that I've always used is Adam Gase. If Adam Gase gets multiple head coaching opportunities and other highly
right,
qualified people who were on a staff that just won the Super Bowl do not, that to me makes no sense.
right. Or like it happens to other sports too. It's like, like
Yeah, I mean, it's just
Jason
easy to
Kidd.
pick on American football because,
Yeah,
yeah,
like Jason Kidd's name comes up every time there's a head coaching position in basketball, and it's like, why? Like he
why?
was not a
Yeah,
good coach for
that's a fair
Milwaukee
question.
or Brooklyn. Like,
Yeah,
like what besides and then people were like upset when Steve Nash was hired. I mean, like I could see the logic, Hall of Fame point guard, probably has a good understanding of the game. I'm not saying he can't coach, but people were like, you're giving this guy zero opportunity. He's had zero experience coaching basketball ever. I know he's a great basketball player, but like, there are minority and women
yeah.
college coaches and assistant coaches who have a record of coaching basketball at a high level, and like you just waved past them all and gave Steve Nash, Kevin Durant, and Kyrie Irving, and eventually James Harden. Like that's a dream job, right? Like you would want
Yeah,
three
I mean, I would
superstars
like to
like that
think
on
that's
your
a
team.
pretty hard one to screw up.
Yeah, so like I mean, you saw Nash hugging Kevin Durant after he played 48 minutes in a game
Yeah.
to save his life. Like that's that's what you want as a coach. And like like it seems some people say it seems unfair that it seems like all these super nice positions never seem to bounce the way of people in other positions.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, it seems like it's kind of a mixed bag. I would say in tech, it's definitely still not super at least at the CEO position, especially not
Yeah.
super diverse. I would
Yeah.
say. And also like a lot of the diversity in tech, I'm not gonna lie, that's East Asian dudes like myself. How diverse is that? Like, like it's a question of, like I'm not saying that, I am a minority, but like if you're only hiring Asian guys and white guys, like I wouldn't say that that's necessarily diverse either.
I guess I hadn't thought of it that way, but I mean, I would argue that any diversity is better than no diversity. And
Yeah, any
in
diversity
your
is good for no
example in high
diversity,
tech, but
but having a still very cultivated
yeah.
demographic is not necessarily good.
Yep. Anyway, we all know that diverse teams do better. We all know that diverse teams make more money. Like the stats on all of that is clear. So if you're watching this and you want to know what you can do about stuff like this, vote with your money. Spend it on companies that do cultivate diverse teams, that do promote diverse and talented people. Shop at small businesses in your community that do the same thing. And start there. Okay. Moving, I guess, along to our first interesting news headline of the week as it relates to the stock market. We've talked in the past about meme stocks and all of the irrationality of investors and how seemingly small things turn out to be this way overblown, I guess, market reaction to things that we don't think really matter. And I couldn't help but come across this article from the Euro 2020-2021 soccer tournament where Cristiano Ronaldo moves a bottle of
Oh, the
Coca-Cola
bottle of Coke.
off
And
of his
yeah.
press stand
Hmm.
in favor of a bottle of water and shaves $4 billion off of Coca-Cola's market cap.
All right. So I saw that story, but I also saw people pointing out that if you actually look at the graph of like their price,
No.
the swing that happened after he moved the water is really just like the same amount, but it's like the same size as all the other noise that you see on the chart. Like It just seems like Coke kind of does that throughout its day. Like $4 billion sounds like a lot of money to us, but apparently the Coke's market cap that is the drop in the water that they steal from everybody. So whatever. Oh, no, that's Nestle. My bad. That's Nestle. But
That is a drop in the water that they steal from everybody.
but like like it's apparently not actually that. So I don't like like I can't even tell like was that I'd like to think so. Maybe it was like
Yeah, I
maybe
mean, maybe
Christian.
it's a clickbaity headline, maybe it's not. I just
Yeah,
thought that
he is
the timing of
he
the
is
drop is interesting to me.
he is one of the two most famous currently playing
Yeah,
international football stars in the world. He definitely has millions, if not maybe billions, of fans watching him intently and
yeah,
who want to idolize him and be like him. And I won't deny there were probably thousands of people who, upon seeing Ronaldo decline Coke in favor of water, were like, yeah, I should do that. I won't decline that. There were like probably lots of kids who were like, yeah,
yeah.
that's the good decision off that. I'm just not really sure if Coke actually noticed or gave a shit. I mean, maybe they noticed and were like, like, hey, we pay big money to to whatever league you're in or whatever
Yeah, I
team
mean,
you're
they
on
are
to have our
one of
product
the
placed
official
there,
sponsors of the whole tournament, so
right? So they
that
might be
can't be
mad about
cheap.
that, but like I'm not really sure how much of that drop was like. I mean, maybe it was all him, but I'm also not sure if it was like was that really that did Coke care? Like if they lost
Yeah.
$4 billion off that, or were they just like just drink it tomorrow and we'll make it back? Like no one will remember. Like I
Okay,
have
so
no
you're
idea.
you're firmly skeptical. You think it's a funny coincidence, but you're not really sure that this really had anything to do with it. Kyle, what do you
Yeah,
think?
I guess I mean I don't know specifically about that situation, but I
I
mean I
mean, you
think
follow a lot of other sports, though. Surely there has to be other instances of something like this that we can look at and say, does it really matter?
yeah, I mean I feel like I guess I can't think of any other similar situations off the top of my head, but I guess I mean I think to a certain extent yes it will have an effect, but yeah I don't know that the people who are influenced as easily are maybe the ones buying the stock, like being the one who are influencing the price.
Okay.
Like I think maybe to a minor, like an even smaller percentage of the people who are actually um the people who would actually be like, holy shit, I he did that, like he put the coke away, he got out water, like
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know how many or like how big of a percentage are actually the ones influenced enough to or like mature enough to be buying stocks and stuff.
I
Like
gotcha.
maybe that's kind of a good
I mean, I think it's still indirectly affected, right? If
Yeah.
everyone doesn't want to buy Coca-Cola because of
yeah,
that, then the price goes down just because, like, Coke's not going to make the money that they were going
Yeah, I
to.
mean, the
yeah,
bottom
It's
line
just,
is that's not a good look. The
yeah, at
difficult
the end of
part
the
is
day,
tracking it back to the actual share price as a result of that specific action compared to other things.
yeah, because at the end of the day, it was a negative review. He
Yeah.
basically negatively reviewed Coke and said he preferred water at
Yeah.
that moment. And then, like, maybe it's not as bad as, like, like a product getting recalled that you endorse, and then you being like there's potentially like danger to your life. But I mean, at the end of the day, it was, I guess, quote unquote catastrophic endorsement. So, maybe it does matter more than I think. It's just I'm not certain. Like I feel like celebrity endorsements can bring your value way up. Like
Yeah.
McDonald's whole crap with all of their meals that they've been doing, like collabing with different people and making a new meal. Travis Scott was big. The BTS one they just
Which
did
I'm
was
sorry,
massive.
as a marketing person, I understand that that was highly successful. It's a stupid idea. It is
I
literally the
guess
same damn meal, just in a different combination with a sticker on it.
mm,
And
yeah. I
I
mean, you get
hate that
the
it
fancy
works, but it
get the fancy
does.
packaging, get the fancy
Ugh.
packaging.
Some of these people I hadn't even heard of. Like, I'll be honest with you, I had never heard of Jay Balvin until I saw him in the McDonald's commercial. I'm like, who the
Oh,
hell is that?
he's a music artist. He made some shoes too that were really popular. Or not, I don't know about really popular, but like sold out around the time. They're very interesting, very loud.
I'm sorry. I don't get it. I don't get it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a huge. I haven't really gotten any of the collab meal, or I guess I haven't really understood the collab meals either, but it's making them a ton of money. So
I mean, I think it's the framing of it. I think it's that you go to McDonald's because you know food will consistently taste like something. And if they can give you a suggestion that makes the decision making process faster, then hey, I don't have to think about what I want the next time I go to McDonald's. I'll just get this because I saw a commercial for it, or because somebody's a huge Travis Scott fan, or maybe they actually like Sprite to begin with. Like, who the hell knows? But I have to wonder if it just shortcuts the decision making process, and that's why it works.
I always find it funny that it seems like, oh, Jordan, I think I can hear myself echoing on your end.
I don't hear anything.
Well, that's because you're the source of the echo. You won't hear anything. You can't hear your own mic. But so, like, I think those kind of endorsements can go like really up for a company. They're like, if Travis Scott said he wasn't a huge fan of McDonald's, how much would that actually affect McDonald's price negatively? Like, if he not if he's not saying McDonald's gets him sick or anything. If he just said like, oh, I'm not a huge fan of McDonald's in an interview, like, how much would that actually negatively affect McDonald's price?
Yeah, I don't know.
I feel like the people who are gonna buy it are already gonna buy it.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I feel like endorsements can convince people to get into a product, or at least these kind of endorsements. I'm not necessarily convinced that it has as big of a negative impact. I'm sure it does. Like, there will be some people who will say like, oh, I'm not going to do it if that person says no. But I just think it's easier for a celebrity to convince people to positively act in favor of a company rather than to negatively influence the company. Unless they're condemning the company for something that's like serious in the court of public opinion, like this company is just morally bad. Like, it's hard to gain the traction for that.
Yeah.
Like, if you say you don't like a product, most people are like, okay, cool. Like, that's good, like, as a review, I guess. But beyond that, like, it doesn't give a lot of value to me. If I was looking for a review and they were all negative, okay, I won't buy this. But, like, if it's McDonald's and I hear a negative review about it, I mean, I already have my opinion on McDonald's made. Like, you really cannot change that a lot. At least negative. Like, it's not in my mind. McDonald's is not going to get like a ton worse than what I think it is. Like, and I don't think it's bad necessarily right now. I don't think it's great, but like, like, it's going to be hard to convince me that McDonald's suddenly has fallen below a certain standard, right? Like, there's a McDonald's level of taste, and that is where it's always going to be in my mind. So
when the expectation is an experience that is decidedly average,
and
you're not going to deviate from that too much.
Your little collab meal with signature sauces that are only available for a limited time, that might pique my interest a little bit. It won't lower it, but it might be like, oh, there's 5 new sauces. Okay, I could try some chicken nuggets once. I can say the words BTS meal and get 5 new sauces. Like, that's acceptable. Whatever.
All right. Well, that's interesting. I guess.
Well, what do you think? Do you think it mattered?
I mean, I think it matters, not in the sense that he is solely responsible for shaving $4 billion off of the market cap with the action. I think the problem was in the setup. Like, okay, if I had just come off the field from physically exerting myself for an hour and a half, is the first thing I'm going to do reach for something that is going to dehydrate my body even further than I already am?
Well,
the answer is, of course not. And so if we're talking about product placement, and this is probably not the answer to the question that you were looking for, but like, if you give me an option between a Heineken, which also has happened, a Coca-Cola, and a water, I'm only going to pick one of those options. And so, from a brand perspective, from a perception of value perspective, if I'm Coke or if I'm any of them, like, how are we framing this so that you still get the value of your sponsorship without putting somebody's forced choice on television in front of millions of people where they didn't want what I have to sell?
You're saying they just set themselves up to fail. The endorsement was bad. It was a bad endorsement because, like, most people would just obviously not want
Well,
Coca-Cola in
it
that
wasn't that the
situation. They would prefer
endorsement
the
of the
water.
whole soccer tournament is necessarily
Not,
bad, because
not,
I
not,
mean
no, no.
it's
It was that
yeah,
opportunity. They were asking Ronaldo to
correct.
drink, or at least to show Coke
Yeah,
after physically exerting themselves, and most
yeah.
people don't want Coca-Cola at that
No,
moment. It's a bad opportunity. But I'm guessing in their mind, they were probably like, "Look, you don't have to drink the Coke. We just need the can to sit on the table." And
Yeah.
you like,
yeah,
he also
Just
did
screen
not have
time.
to move the can. That was interesting. Like, like he chose to push that can out of camera view and then
yeah,
bring his water in. That is probably, if Coke is gonna be mad at something, it's
yeah,
not that he drank the water during, like, it'd just be like, he's an athlete. He had the water bottle with him when he came off the pitch,
Yeah.
whatever. It's the fact that they were on TV and then he went and move them off TV.
yeah.
That is what they pay the money for, right? Like
Yep.
the can just needs to sit in front of him, so that like I don't know. It was kind of interesting. Like I won't say that he just like the fact that he moved the can out of the way. Like maybe he did care to say like I really don't want Coke. Like it wasn't just like I ignored the Coke can. It was
Yeah.
I really do not want Coca-Cola right now. Maybe he was mad at them and wanted to piss them off a little bit, whatever. Maybe negotiations in his last endorsement deal not super good,
Nice.
but I'm not sure.
Oh my. An interesting piece of news for the market this week, at the very least, but it sounds like we're firmly divided on exactly how and why that was or was not significant. But I want to shift gears a little bit because I was going back over some consumer spending information that came out recently. And as the economy starts to reopen from COVID, they were noting that there's been a huge surge in luxury brand purchases because the upper,
Yeah.
20% of the human population has finally decided that they want to travel again and they want to do all these other things.
Don't spend.
And so I want to talk about luxury stocks today, which is not something that we've done yet. Because as we look at the screen and we see that none of us are doing particularly well, I'm wondering if now is the time to... Because all of us have tried to diversify in different ways, but we're all still fairly tech heavy. And so I'm wondering if now is the time to diversify into some luxury brands, because now the world's richest person is actually the head of LVH, which is basically the fashion house that owns... Here, I'll give you the list. LVMH. All right, let me read these for you. Dom Perignon, De Beers, Hennessy, Louis Vuitton. Some of these are really small. Hermes, Tag Heuer, Hublot. Like all of these extremely niche and Tiffany is on there. Like all of these extremely expensive, extremely niche brands have all been consolidated under this, fashion house holding company type of thing. And this guy is now richer than Jeff Bezos. Like, if that doesn't tell us something about where market trends are and where consumer spending is, I don't know what does.
Well, I think the idea of luxury goods and items like that is becoming more popular because I think, especially in America, I think the traditional way of showing wealth, not I'm not saying like, oh, you're like flexing necessarily, but the way of quickly determining a family's wealth is by looking at their A, what kind of property they own,
Yep.
if they own property, and B, what kind of car do they own, if they own a car.
Yep.
Like those, I feel like used to be really big status symbols, or like currently still are really big status symbols in America. But like if you look at places like China, or I noticed, or like Asia, where property is not as easy to get, or public transportation is preferred more to private transportation.
Mm-hmm.
You notice that the emphasis is on buying material items. When you go to the airport, who has the all Louis Vuitton bags and wears the all designer fit, even if it looks awful, has the gaudy gold jewelry? It's usually the Asian foreign nationals, right? Like I'm not trying to be super racist, but that's it. And I think it is because this idea that I don't really necessarily have an opportunity to buy a house or a car as easily. So if I'm if I have disposable income and I want to spend it, I spend it on items like this. And I think that's becoming more common in America because let's face it, it's harder to buy property in America.
Yeah.
Like our generation is not as likely to own property as the
Traditional
generation
status
before
symbols are
us.
just not financially attainable for a lot of people.
Mhm.
And people are becoming more remote.
Yep.
You know, jobs, public transportation is getting a little bit better as much as I don't like it in America. So, you know,
We have a long way to go.
having a car not necessarily as important either. So, you know, maybe people are like, I'm middle class, so you know, I can't afford to buy the mansion that I want or drop X 100K on a house, but you know, I could buy the $2,000 bag right now. So why not buy the $2,000 bag?
That's an interesting take. I hadn't thought of it that way, but that makes a lot of sense.
Will that keep up? I don't know, but
When honestly,
I
this
do
is.
think
I think it does, and here's why. There's so much pent up demand. And like we've talked about this before with airline stock, right? There's so much pent up demand for airline travel that I have shares in Alaska for the purposes of this competition, and there's no way I sell those right now.
Mhm.
The rest of this fiscal year has way too much upside for them because so many flights are going to be completely full or oversold because no one has gotten to go anywhere in a year.
yeah,
And so I think by extension that some of this carries over with some of these luxury brands, right? Not necessarily in the sense that you couldn't have gone and purchased a 20 carat diamond ring if you didn't want to, but now you feel better about your capital positions and whether your money is safe or not, that you feel
yeah,
okay spending the money as opposed to trying to keep it safe tucked away somewhere.
yeah, because things are opening back up. Your job is probably right, getting back online, and you're like, okay, well, we're getting customers, so I'll continue to get paid, so I can now spend my money on whatever I want, whatever item I'm looking to
Yeah,
buy.
I mean, I think it's just in the face of reduced uncertainty because of COVID, they
Mhm.
feel better about saying, I can resume the spending habits that I previously had, and maybe even go a little bit overboard, because A, I know my money is safe, and B, like, the last year and a half has been really, really good for rich people. I had a chart up earlier, and I don't remember where I put it. Here we go. In the last year and a half, the top 1% have gained $8.2 trillion of net wealth. The 90th to the 99th percentile. Okay, so this is from Q4 of 2018 to Q4 of 2020, so about 2 years. The 90th to 99th percentile gained $9.1 trillion of net wealth.
Oh.
And the 50th to the 90th percentile gained $6.1 trillion of net wealth. Bottom 50% gained $1.2 trillion of net wealth.
So upper middle class got slightly richer, and the top
So if you were
class got
rich, you did
richer,
extremely
richer.
well.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I think this is only the tip of the iceberg in terms of some of this luxury spending, because all that money is going to go somewhere. A lot of it will probably be reinvested in traditional things, like you say, property, yachts, cars, blah, blah, blah. But like a lot of it, they're going to travel. They're going to buy expensive bottles of liquor. Like they're going to do things that make a lot of these luxury brand stocks that people might not be as familiar with really, really popular and really, really potentially high performing. So the question is, if you were going to buy stock in one luxury good, what would it be? Obviously, this is hypothetical because a lot of these companies are umbrellas now that just own a bunch of different luxury brands.
Yeah.
But, like, where do you think a lot of this spending goes?
I still don't know. Like a luxury brand, I'm not really sure. I'm still not sure like what I would buy out of that. Like you know, like I probably wouldn't pick alcohol. I don't know. I just feel like that is not something that like high like top shelf alcohol is just something that doesn't have enough broad appeal to me for it to be like. I mean, it does, right? Like who drinks that? Like really rich people who don't care about the price of what they order,
Yep.
and like people around our age who aren't that rich but want to seem that rich, so they buy
Yeah.
the $X 100 bottle of tequila,
Yep.
right? Like those are the people who buy it, and I just feel like that's not like a broad enough group where like if we're talking about like how more people right now have interest in luxury items because they have this excess money that they made over COVID spend, I'm
Yeah.
really not sure if that is how they would be still choosing to spend it. I might be more interested in like a designer brand, like I don't know, like LV or Burberry or something, simply because it's a little bit more diverse. Like
Yeah.
you make bags, you
Yeah.
make clothing, you make several things, right? So like to appeal to a couple sources of revenue, and the names Burberry, Louis Vuitton, those
Yeah.
kind of things. Those are all worth things. That's all worth a certain amount on its own just by being
Yeah.
attached to the
The
name.
brand
So.
is
Yeah.
worth a lot on its own.
Yeah, so like I feel like I would probably go for some. I like I like shopping, so I'd probably go something for like
Okay.
more a designer fashion brand probably rather than maybe a luxury goods like thing.
Yeah. Well, and then I
I
mean,
would think cars might be interesting too. I know that's
yeah,
more of a traditional kind of store of value that we were talking, a store of wealth that we were talking about, but like luxury cars might be as rich
I do
people are
know
like, all right, I can
offhand
go
that
drive on the road.
2020 was a record year for Lamborghini, at the very least.
Yeah, so that would be interesting too. Because if I was actually rich and I wanted to flex something that wasn't a house, I'd probably go for a car first. In fact, even if I had the money to buy a house, I'd still go for a car first.
Well, the interesting thing is some of these car companies are publicly traded. Like, you could go buy stock in Ferrari if you wanted to.
hmm
yeah,
So, okay. Kyle, what you think?
yeah. I mean, I think like how I was saying. Well, I don't know. I mean, I'm pretty sure like the fashion brands and all that they're more accessible because like I mean, not everyone drinks alcohol.
Yep.
Not everyone cares enough about the taste of alcohol. Like some people are just trying to get drunk, you know. Um, so like they don't need to buy top shelf. There's some people are buying like plastic bottles. That I mean, you do you, you know. But so like I
Roll with
mean, yeah,
those liquor still.
I feel like being alcohol specific because a lot of those companies were alcohol. I think in the group that
Some
you
of them are
Exotic.
alcohol brands. There's a lot of clothing brands that are on there.
yeah
Some of them are hard goods, like diamonds and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I always feel like mining is
I think
such a hard one, though, because like you're pulling things out of the ground. Like sometimes that goes well, and sometimes that goes really badly.
yeah like the giant one that got pulled out of Botswana recently.
Yep.
Okay, but yeah, I guess yeah, like alcohol kind of segments the group a little bit too much, too, in my opinion. Um, yeah, I think like brands like I don't know, like Louis Vuitton, like Gucci, Chanel, you know, whatever, Givenchy.
Okay.
I don't know. Those are like big enough brands where it's like commonly recognized. Like there's enough brand recognition that even I mean, and then also they offer so many different varieties of like of goods that you know the price can be attainable by a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I feel like that probably has one of the biggest markets. Maybe like cars in a way, well, cars are like incredibly expensive. Like you know, some are upwards of $250,000, right?
Well, and I feel like any car right now is gonna be so expensive. A, because there's a lot of demand, and B, because you can't get chips for them.
Yeah,
So like that, I feel like compounds an already very, very expensive item.
yeah. So I don't know. Yeah, I personally would want to say that cars are like, you know, because I like cars. So cars are where I would want to like, um, I don't know. I mean, it's just yeah, it's like it's not attainable for a lot of people, but it's also it's a status symbol that a lot of people also recognize too.
Yeah.
Yeah, like we were talking about, it's in America at least. It's a very traditional status
Yeah.
symbol, right?
Yeah.
Like buying the nice car is
Mhm.
definitely a sign of how opulent you are,
Yeah.
or it's a sign of your midlife crisis. Like if you buy a nice car, people notice that and say like you're either having your midlife crisis or you must be rich, right? Those are the
Yeah.
assumptions.
Yeah. Yep. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I think like luxury hard goods is definitely one to look at. Any luxury like travel and hospitality brands. Obviously, we've talked about airlines before, but I mean, casino brands. Like private jets would be one to look at. I'm curious to see what happens to the private jet market because of this. The difficult part that when we get into a lot of luxury brands is that a lot of them are not public. Like Obviously,
Well,
LVMH
that's the
is
whole
an
point,
exception
right?
because they own a whole bunch of stuff. But like, if you want to buy stock in companies that make private yachts, for example, because you're trying to get, you're trying to get profit out of Jeff Bezos' new $500 million yacht or whatever the hell he just bought. Like,
Oh,
that's
what
a
was that one
very
that?
difficult thing to find because a lot of these companies are so small. Like, they'll make one in a year or
Hmm.
Well, I
two in
mean,
a year.
when you make one boat that makes you $700 million, is all
Yeah,
you need to make in a
yeah,
year.
that's all you need to make. But like, as an investor, you can't get in on that per se,
Yeah,
and
Yeah.
so you have to find
you
this
would have had
line
to know
between
someone.
where are the market segments that have demand and what can you actually buy.
Hmm.
Very true.
Because yeah, I mean, if I could buy shares in luxury boat builders, I don't know, I might do it. Like, it seems like everybody's getting one.
Hmm.
Hey, Jerry Jones had that like $1 billion yacht he built like
He still
last year or
does, yeah. I
whatever.
mean, it's
Yeah, it's like it's massive. It's like bigger than a cruise ship. And I'm like, that's
yeah,
a single person yacht.
Holy
has
Jesus.
like a crew of 30 people or something stupid.
Yeah, I'm just like, damn. Like, so he just doesn't want to see his help if he doesn't have to.
No, but I mean, going back to what you said earlier, like the amount of status or quote unquote social currency that comes from owning something like that,
Massive.
I have to think that that type of purchase is only going to continue. A, because a lot of rich people are now coming out of these
Well, okay, if you're
pandemic
not,
spending habits, but you also have a lot of new money that now has to figure out what do I do with it.
what do I spend it on,
Yeah,
right? Like I've made my hundreds of millions at
yep,
least. What do I spend this money on now? Like I've hit the dream. What do I do with it?
yep.
And some of it will be reckless yacht spending, I'm sure. Or
I'm sure it will be.
whoever makes G6s or whatever that song is, yeah, you can go look at that too.
What, Learjet? I don't know if Learjet's publicly traded. I should know that.
There you go. There's your private jet company. Maybe private jets will be more popular, right? Because travel restrictions will be in. But if you fly on your own private jet, I can't imagine you're hit by COVID travel restrictions, right?
Yeah.
As long as you abide by whatever rules the airport that you're staying at follows.
Yeah.
Like once you get in the jet, you're gonna be like, oh, mask off. 20
Yeah, I mean,
people
I feel
stuffed
like you
into this
just have to
room.
be able to pass a test or abide by whatever quarantine
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
rules are in place wherever you go. But that's it.
As long as the airport lets you in, like once you're into the airport, it's like, okay, well, once I'm on the plane, I do whatever the hell I want. I pay these people to ignore me.
Yeah.
I pay these people to pay attention to me when I need them to and to ignore me all of the times.
Hmm.
Okay, so
Don't
here's a
exist.
quick fun fact since we're on the topic of Learjets.
hmm
Their largest, fastest, and longest ranging plane is $20.8 million on average. And it's not even considered to be a high end private plane.
I see. It's probably fast, but doesn't have all like the comfort stuff, amenities added inside of the cabin. I would
They're
imagine.
saying that, at least according to this opinion piece, right? If you
Oh,
really
so it's
want
a
to
review.
splurge, you go get a Bombardier, which costs $70 million.
Who writes these articles? Like
This one is on CNET.
who writes these? Who goes around as like? How do you become a critic for luxury planes, like luxury private jets? Like, how do you get a respected opinion in that field without coming off as a total pompous ass?
I
Like,
have no idea. I have no idea.
like I'm rich and knowledgeable enough to like review private jets, but I
Hmm.
probably don't own my own private jet, right?
Yeah.
Like, but you guys should respect my opinion on them. It's just so very weird, but okay.
Yeah. Okay, here we go. It does look like. No, that's a different one. Um. Anyway, okay. Let me get out of this rabbit hole of private jet ownership, and we'll wrap things up for the week. Okay. So we're getting towards the last week of June. Obviously, it's not been particularly good for anybody. I know last week we talked about some strategies we might be taking to dig ourselves out of a hole. Honestly, I have not done anything, as you can see by my delightful third place performance. Am looking at some things this week. I might actually just get impatient enough to pull the trigger and see what happens. But what about you guys?
I did attempt to do a little bit of day trading. I made a very small amount of money that didn't really amount to a lot, but I wasn't like losing money for most of the week, which I think is how I ended up in pole position after this week or whatever.
Okay, but you did do it. You did something.
Yeah, I did. I did do it a little bit.
Okay.
It didn't. I had gained a little bit more money at first, and then I miscalculated on one of my setups. Ended up not being able to check my phone for a little bit. By the time I checked the price, it was not a great investment at that point. So I lost a little bit of money on that. So that kind of wiped out some of the gains there, and then I still have my Ripple investment because it's making me money all the time. But for the month, it's like really gross right now. I'm not gonna lie. So that's kind of brought me down. That's what's bringing me down past like zero, and then I think Shopify is actually offsetting that right now a little bit. Shopify's had like a great week for whatever reason. I don't know what happened, but they had a good week, so that I think that's helping me out a little bit right now too.
I don't know what happened, but it made me money, so it's all good.
Yeah, they're up like 14% on the month, so I'm
all
like,
right.
oh, that's good. That's good.
Kyle, you gonna try anything?
Well, I mean, so over the course of the week, I was able to get rid of Pinterest.
Okay. Did you make any money off of it?
I did make a profit off of it.
Okay.
So that was good. And then with that, I don't remember exactly how much. It was fairly substantial though. I think I was up in like I think it was almost like 7%.
Okay.
At that point.
So that's a respectable number. Nice work.
Yeah, pretty good. So I got rid of that, and then I was able to get into Bitcoin, and then I did.
Buying the dip.
I did day trade that for a little bit, and so I got not much off of it. I got like a couple thousand here or there, but now it's sitting at a healthy negative, almost 7%. So I think I didn't maintain that as well.
So it worked for a bit.
Yeah, so it helped for a little bit.
You'll probably still get a bounce back out of Bitcoin too.
Yeah,
that's why I was choosing ones like Bitcoin, because like I didn't want to choose a smaller coin that had potentially, because like there are other coins that seem to be oscillating between like 2 points, and it's much wider, right? So you have a chance to hit. But I'm also like, there's a chance it goes down and it doesn't come back up. Whereas Bitcoin, I'm fairly certain is not going to drop below like a certain level. Like even if it went until it went below like 25,000, I would not really be worried about like maybe it won't recover to the point where I bought it at.
The hard part though is in the confines of a monthly competition. Like we've talked about before, how patient can you afford to be with some of this? Makes it difficult. Because, I mean, right now, I could unload it. Do I want to? No.
Yeah.
Do I want to take 6% when I know, like, 2 months ago, I was at 70? Yeah. No, of course not. Why would I want to do that? But I may not have a choice. We'll see. I don't want to lose. Can't lose 2 months in a row. That'd be disgusting.
I did. That's what I've been doing since the very beginning.
The difference is that I'm actually supposed to know what I'm doing, and you guys are learning.
Okay, that is true.
But
it's okay. The
market humbles everybody.
First month, but that first loss was so catastrophic. It has basically meant this competition has been over from a loser standpoint since then.
Come on, that can't possibly be true.
It is so true. What are you guys at right now? Like minus what? All time.
All time?
-6.
Negative. Yeah, like I'm at like 3 times Kyle's amount right now. I bet he's second to last.
I'm at positive 0.15.
Okay, so you're barely positive. Austin, meanwhile, still turned like a 20% net profit off of Ripple, like off that trade. So like, yeah, like I'm at like minus like 17 or something ridiculous like that. Like it's over, bro. Like even if all of my other trades had not lost me any money, I just like net zero, I would be minus like 12% or minus 12.5%, I think, just off GameStop alone. Probably.
But see, here's the thing, like, if you
I
successfully
would still,
identify and time the next like Doge to the moon type of thing,
well,
that would be
I
it.
still would have invested it. Well, I mean, like, if I had just bought AMC when I talked about AMC like a month ago, I would have. It's gone up like 700% since then. So like,
Shit.
that would have been a good start. But whatever, casual.
Happens to the best of us.
Mm-hmm.
Well, alrighty, guys, it's going to be an interesting week. Best of luck if you keep day trading your cryptos. I guess we'll see what happens there. But have a great weekend, and we'll see where everybody lands. Let's see. Is next week the official end of June? I feel like it can't be because today's the 19th.
I don't think so.
No.
No.
Okay, so we've got next week and half of the week after. So,
Mm-hmm.
best of luck down the final stretch. We'll see what moves are made, what moves are not made, and we'll see where it ends up. Later.
Yeah, sounds good. Take care, guys.
See you guys.